With a new form of government taking shape at City Hall and every seat up for grabs, Austin voters elected 2 new city council members on November 4th and sent 16 council candidates, plus 2 vying for Austin mayor, to runoff elections. Tonight, Beyond the Rhetoric, we ask the remaining candidates what makes them the right person to lead their district and our city.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.
Hello, and thanks for joining us for Civic Summit, City Council Runoff Conversation District 1, a joint production of KLRU, Leadership Austin, KUT, and the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life. I'm Jennifer Staten with KUT 90.5, Austin's NPR station. For the next half hour, we'll be speaking with the candidates running in District 1. You can join the conversation by using the hashtag CivicSummitD1. District 1 is in East Austin. It's bordered by I-35 on the west, extends as far north as Howard Lane, and south to East 7th Street. The eastern border of the district is SH 130, with only a few areas east of there. It's the smallest district in terms of population. The residents are majority Hispanic and African American. Candidates in the runoff are Ora Houston and DeWayne Lofton. Ora has lived in East Austin almost all of her life. She spent 27 years working at the Texas Department of Mental Health and Mental Retardation. She has also participated in many local organizations and commissions. Running against her, DeWayne Lofton. DeWayne is a native East Austinite and has also served on a number of Austin commissions. He's currently a senior deputy in the Travis County Sheriff's Office. Our discussion tonight will focus on leadership. So consider this kind of a job interview. We want to know what skills and qualities you would bring to Austin City Hall. Now, this discussion is not being conducted in an official, formal debate manner, but we are asking the candidates to be respectful of each other's time and to limit their answers to about a minute. So the first question, which was shared with both candidates before tonight, what have you learned about yourself over the past 4 months or so of campaigning that would help you govern? And Ora Houston, answer first.
Thank you so much. It's so nice to be here tonight and to have all the other people joining in on Twitter and hashtags and all that kind of stuff. I've learned several things about myself that will help me govern once elected to the City Council. And I think the most important one is that I don't require as much sleep as I thought I would. Because as we look at City Council meetings, obviously, you don't get a whole lot of sleep on Thursdays. So that's one thing. The other thing I think that I've learned is that I get energy from talking with the people who live in the district about their hopes, their dreams, their desires, and their concerns. And so that sense of energy is something that really connects with me. The other thing I think that I've learned is that I have a sense of place. I have a sense of belonging. Because I've lived in Austin for a long time, I know the history of this city. I know what's going on presently, and I believe that I can be a bridge to the future.
DeWayne.
Sure. One of the things that I've learned is, as elected officials, we need to get out of our office. I've been in this community working for a long time. And, I'm very familiar with the issues, but, I have kind of what I call my take on those issues. And the one thing that I've learned in this process and, having talked to a lot of people across this district is, you really don't always understand a problem until you actually get to see it for yourself, see it with your own eyes. And that's one of the things that, I've learned probably the most is, I need to get out of my office and, drive around the district and actually, put my eyes on the problems so that I better understand what's going on and have a better understanding of how we need to address that issue.
All right, so I want to give you a hypothetical situation we're going to talk about. So a developer is in conflict over a project with a local neighborhood group. The city staff prefers one solution, the neighborhood group prefers another solution. So I want to hear from you what skills you would use to resolve this particular situation, and really in general any other conflicts that are no doubt going to arise between competing interests and groups if you were in office. And DeWayne, if you want to answer first. Sure.
Well, this is a great question because I'm the president of my neighborhood association. And just a week ago, we had a development that went before the Planning Commission. City staff is recommending approval of the project, and the neighborhood is against it. And we went down there and made our case as to, why we felt like the development wasn't good for our neighborhood. But the Planning Commission voted against us and approved it. And as a council member, how I would resolve, that type of conflict where, we have the city staff recommending and then the neighborhood opposing, is I would look at, what is the neighborhood asking in terms of why they're opposing the project, and see if, part of the reason why they're opposing this particular project is because it doesn't bring value to their neighborhood. And if it doesn't bring value to their neighborhood, I think I would be more inclined to side with the neighbors and oppose the project because, at the end of the day, the developers that are coming into our neighborhoods and, throughout this community and developing, when that project is complete, they get to go back to their homes, but the folks that live in that neighborhood are stuck with, whatever that particular development is. And if it's something that they think doesn't complement their neighborhood, then, in essence, we are kind of penalizing them in a way. And so I would be very mindful of the decisions that I made, especially in conflicts like that.
Well, I would like to start the process differently. I would like to ensure that every developer has conversations with the community and the neighborhoods prior to any action being taken. Right now, sometimes we get ordinances and resolutions to direct staff to do something, and that doesn't really work well because then the conversation is about how do we stick to our guns or how do we stick to our guns, and there's no way to have real, true, honest dialogue. So I would like to put the process up and say, before you start this rigorous process, you have to have real heartfelt conversations with each other, and I'm willing to use my currency to bring that about and sit with people, and so they listen to each other about what the issues are and then start the resolution process and whatever the rest of the process is. I think communities find themselves feeling like they're being shot at, sniped at all the time because they don't have enough time to really engage the process in the development.
So we're talking at a Civic Summit, hoping to increase civic engagement by doing this today. I'm curious to hear from both of you, how would you work to increase civic engagement and interaction with your office? If you're elected, how would you sort of open your doors and encourage folks to communicate with you? Ora, if you'll take that first.
Well, as I tell people all the time, you know where I live and you know my phone number, so that's the first way. You can always get me. Constituent services is really something that's at the heart of why people need to be engaged. They don't feel, as I've listened to them up and down the district, that anybody listens to them. So I would be very intentional about making sure that I'm out and about in the community, that I have meetings in the community, town hall meetings once a quarter, to talk about those issues that impact the quality of their lives. We assume that people in districts don't want to work with the city and don't want to help and understand they do. It's just that one way of messaging does not catch every demographic, especially in a district as diverse as District 1. So we've got to, as city staff, we've got to find new ways of engaging people. And again, I'm willing to have those conversations moved out into the neighborhoods.
DeWayne.
And I would also, work to go out into the neighborhood and talk to the residents there in the district, so that we can hear firsthand the problems that they see, the disconnect in city services. One of the things that I've found through this process is the city assumes that they're doing a very good job of communicating information out as to why they do particular things. But one thing that I've done throughout this process is I've explained to folks like why the city takes certain actions or why the city can't take certain actions. And what I found is like once they realize like, why the city is not responding in a particular way or why the city did respond in a particular way, that they have a better appreciation for the process. And I think, them becoming more informed will in turn make them more engaged. And so one of the things that I want to do is make sure that we go out and continually inform the public about why we take particular actions and make particular decisions so that, one, they know what's going on, but two, that they become more engaged.
So you've both worked to engage your constituents, open your doors, and hear communication. So I think we can assume that, your constituents will let you know when you've maybe made a mistake, when you're doing a good job, but probably let you know when maybe you've done something that they're not quite so happy about. What I want, though, is to ask about you yourself personally. What are your own personal benchmarks for whether or not you feel like you're doing a good job leading and serving? Constituents will say this happened, this didn't happen, and I'm upset. But what about you personally? What are those benchmarks for yourself? DeWayne, if you want to answer first.
As being president of my neighborhood association, I've had the opportunity to, work on a lot of different things in this community. And so I do get that feedback from the people that live in our neighborhood. And, they tell me, when I've done a great job or when they think that, I could have done something better to advocate for them. But, at the end of the night, when I'm reflecting and trying to determine whether or not, I've done well, certainly to the extent of my abilities, I try and take in everything and just kind of look at the big picture. And, if I feel like, I've served them to the best of my ability, then I feel like, I've achieved what I set out to do. Government and neighborhood work, it's often thankless. And so, you have to kind of look within yourself to get that personal satisfaction because you won't always get that compliment from the people that you're serving.
Aura.
Well, most of my professional life, I've worked at the Department of Mental Health, Mental Retardation, and so public service is something that I'm accustomed to. And serving on the city council will be just an extension of that. There's some core values that are internal to my campaign, that we will treat people with respect, we will talk in civil tones, we will return calls within 24 hours just to say we need more time to find the information. So again, it's that constituent services that I think will, if the numbers go up, then that says that we're not doing a real good job. If we have less of that because we're available, we're accessible, we're out and about in the community where people can pull us over and say, I don't like the way you did that, or I wish you had done something differently. I think we can have some data to say that whether or not we're doing the good job. And if we're fair, we have to be fair and independent and not choose one side over another. So I think there's some intricacies of governing in this city particularly that will be some challenges, but I think that internally I'll know if I've stepped on the wrong way.
So, DeWayne, I want to follow up on something that you said in your answer and ask this of both of you all. So you used the word thankless at times to describe government and perhaps city service. So I want to hear kind of specifically from each of you why, given what we know can be the sometimes tough nature of this kind of work, why you want to represent District 1 in Austin at this particular time in the city's history. Aura, you want to take that
first? As I said earlier, there's that sense of place that I've lived in this district for such a long time. I love the people, I love the places, and when this came up about 10-1 and the opportunity to represent in a way that our district has never been represented before. The people in our district, the real people, have never had a voice when decisions are being made about the quality of their lives. And I want to represent those people, and I've been doing it for free for a long time, and I thought might as well get paid for it, right? So, but I think it's the people first. I think that my job on City Council is to be a voice for those people who will never come and speak, will never be on the 3-minute citizens communication, who don't even know where City Hall is. So I have to be very in tune with what the reality for those people are, so that when we're having discussions, I can say, well, for some parts of my district, this is not going to work. And so I don't see it as thankless. I see it as a gift, and I'm looking forward to the next vision of that gift.
DeWayne.
And for me, I've been serving this community now for over 25 years, serving in a number of different capacities on city boards. I currently serve on the Human Rights Commission. I'm president of my neighborhood association, and I'm also a reserve deputy with the Travis County Sheriff's Office. So, I've been giving of my time in this community, and the only reason why I do that is because I love Austin, and I love what we can become if we have the right people, in the right place doing the right things. And, this is an opportunity for us as a community to elect representatives that live in our particular neighborhoods to represent that neighborhood. And it's something that I've been doing for a long time. And so I see this as kind of a natural extension of what I'm already doing. And that's why I'm very excited to be a candidate in this particular race and looking forward to becoming the first office holder in District 1.
Now, Ora, you mentioned the new 10-1 system of city government that we have elected. And I'm curious to hear from you all what you think the biggest challenge to the city is going to be as we pivot to this new 10-1 system of government, what the biggest challenge is and how you would plan to face and overcome that challenge. DeWayne, you first.
Well, I think the biggest challenge is going to be everyone, because most of the people that are going to be elected in this initial term are all relatively new to city government. And so the biggest challenge is going to be just kind of wrapping their arms around all the responsibilities that we're going to have, building relationships among each other, because for a lot of us, we didn't know each other before this process. And, I've been told by some of the current council members that, you really become a family down there at City Hall. And so, part of the challenge is going to be us developing that kind of family type atmosphere so that we all get along and we're able to function and govern together.
Ora.
I think the biggest challenge for the new 10-1 system is that sense of inertia, that there's a window of time where we can actually pivot to more representative government in Austin and all that entails. And then there's also a window where we go back to, well, this is the way we've always done it. And that's a challenge for not only the power brokers in this city, it's a challenge for the new council, and it's a challenge for staff. Because as new people come in with new ideas about how city government should respond, then the staff has got to pivot too. We can't just think about the central business district. We now must consider what are the needs in everybody's district. And so one of the things that I think we spend the first so many days on as we, after sworn in, is to develop a culture about how we relate to each other and how we relate to the public and to staff particularly. And then one of the things that I've suggested is that we need to take a bus tour of everybody's district so that we know what their issues are, where they see their assets and where they see needs. And so then we get a better feel, because we are going to have to vote on those too. And so we have to know on a kind of superficial basis what the issues are in everybody's district.
Well, and that answer actually brings up another point about 10-1, which is that each council member will be representing their own district, but will also obviously be voting and deciding on things that are citywide issues. So what kind of skills and qualities would you bring to bear on making decisions impacting your own district versus sort of thinking about the city as a whole? How would you balance those two? DeWayne, if you want to take that one first.
Well, I think we all will realize that, under this new district-based system, we're going to have to bring something home to our district in terms of addressing some of the issues that are very important to that district. But at the same time, realizing that Austin still has to continue to move forward and grow responsibly. And so one of the things that, I think will be very important for us is, making sure that we develop those relationships so that when I talk about, the needs in District 1, that my partner or, next person over in District 2 or 3 or 4, like they also understand that, this is a real issue and it needs to be addressed. And they will work with me to work on those issues as I will work with them to address the issues in their district. And then there's some of those overarching issues like transportation and affordability that are going to, kind of spread across all districts. And I think we'll all want to work on those collectively. So, I think there'll be a lot of opportunity for us to work together as a council on the big issues and keep Austin moving forward, but then at the same time, make sure that our district issues get addressed.
I see Austin as a big puzzle, and that the districts are pieces of that puzzle, and that we have to learn to fit together. That means that we have to dismantle some of the silos that we've lived in and worked in and are educated in for many, many years, and understand how we work together collectively. There's some large issues that, of course, we have to all talk about. Congestion downtown is one. Where we place jobs and economic development is another one. Escalating property taxes. Everybody has those issues in their district. So there's some very broad-based issues, but then there's specific issues to the district. When we talk with environmentalists, we talk about other parts of town, but now I have to say we've got a landfill out on 290 that's it's harmful, and we need to do something creative about not adding to it or mitigating it somehow. So this way, things that have not been heard of before throughout the city are now going to have a voice. And I think that that's how we begin to say, these are some things that are very critical to our district, but the over global kind of thing is something that we all have to work on together. And I think the tone of this first council will set that for everybody else.
So there will be a lot of new faces on this council, a lot of learning, sort of learning the ropes of just how city government works, also learning about issues, especially in the other districts. So each of you talk about how you would lead your constituents, lead your district, and get up to speed doing all the learning. How do you lead and learn at the same time? Or if you want to take that one first.
Having been a single parent, you do multitasking. That's what you do. That's what we've always learned to do, and that's something that that I will be able to do once sworn in January. There's some people that'll give you a little grace margin there, so that I can wait until February to talk to you about this issue. But there are going to be issues that are going to have to be dealt with immediately, and so that's where the staff comes in, because we've got to have some historic institutional memory. We don't have that, so we have to depend on staff to come in and prep us and brief us on things that are going to come up really quick and ask pertinent questions to help us understand it. I'm a very thoughtful person. I love to have different opinions, and so sometimes I get too many, but I think that makes me make decisions better by having a multitude of conversation about what the issues are. And so that's kind of how I think that I will manage that, is that we just keep moving and get data and information, and we make decisions, and or we punt down the road like we've seen happen already on the council.
DeWayne?
And I think my experience as president of my neighborhood is going to, really kind of get me up to speed real quickly in terms of, how do I lead and govern, because it's something that I've been doing for a long time. And so I think for me, a lot of, what I'll do initially is, start meeting with the new council members and introducing myself and trying to get to know them better and figuring out, what their style is, and so that, I know how best to communicate with them. So when we start talking about, working through some of these issues, I know like the issues that are important to them, because in anything, it's going to take 6 votes to get something done. And so if I have already an idea of, the particular issues that are important to a particular council member, when I get ready to look for help to get something done, or even just, have somebody that, I can lean on for guidance or just kind of another impression, or not impression, but another opinion. And like I'll already have, a lot of that. And so that's going to be a lot of what I'll do initially in terms of going forward and leading this council.
So we're already down to our final question. The time has flown by. So if I can get each of you to answer briefly at the end of your term, how will your constituents describe your leadership skills and qualities? What will they say about you when all is said and done? DeWayne, if you want to take that one first.
Well, I think the first thing they will say is I'm very fair. I'm easy to work with. I'm thoughtful. I'm hardworking. And they will say, I believe that, I'm a great council member, and they would be proud to re-elect me to a second term.
And Aura?
I think that's what they'll say, is that, are you running again? Because we like the interaction with the community. You have an open door policy. You're thoughtful in your deliberations and the decisions and why you make certain decisions. I'm a curious person, so I'm always interested in why we're doing it this way instead of another way. And then I'm a courageous person, and they'll say that because I'm able to speak to the reality of people who have not had a voice at the council. So that's what I think they'll say.
And that is all the time we have for tonight. Thanks to both of you, Aura Houston and DeWayne Lofton. All of the runoff conversations and our conversations with the newly elected candidates for Districts 2, 5, and 9 will be available on YouTube. Early voting in the runoff election starts December 1st. Election Day is December 16th. For KLRU, Leadership Austin, the Annette Strauss Institute for Civic Life, and KUT. I'm Jennifer Staten. Thanks so much for watching.
Support for Civic Summit comes from Google, a global technology leader focused on improving the ways people connect with information. And also by Texas Mutual Insurance, providing workers' compensation for Texas employers.